Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round one of season one of the Thursdays division. Okay, it would seem my microphone was not picking up, or I'm relatively sure it wasn't picking up. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, but welcome to the Chinese Grand Prix. This is round one of season one here in WRC's Thursday division. My name is Jack and I'm your commentator. A pleasure to be here as always. And we are here tonight then for our opening round, and many drivers looking to get themselves off to a clean and quick start here at the Shanghai International Circuit. First man out on track was It's Deckers in the Alpine. He will be looking to set the first clean lap of the session. Comes across the line now to begin the first flying lap of the season into turn one. It's always very hard to tell if you're going quick or slow through this turn 1 and 2 complex, as it just gets slower and slower and you grow more and more impatient as you try to turn the car in, then open up the steering wheel out of turn 2 and away you go. Overtake enabled for the Alpine driver as we now go down into the braking zone of, I believe, turn 4. Gets it turned in nicely, does Deckers, and now to the long apex of turn 5. Always waiting. When can you fully get the power down? When can you open up the steering wheel? A very long corner that drivers, I'm sure, will not enjoy. A little bit of a tricky complex through here. Very easy to break traction on the rear end, but Deckers once again getting through it very well, and he now makes his way into one of the most important sections of the track. You need a good exit out of here because of the massive over a kilometre straight that these cars will now race down, and this is one of the most vital points of the Shanghai International Circuit. It looks like the Alpine got through cleanly. He's going to get a little bit of a slipstream from the Haas ahead of him. The question is the Haas going to duck out of the way? The Mercedes does. The Haas does not. So maybe a little bit of dirty air for Deckers as he comes through the final couple of corners through the hairpin there. And this really isn't even a corner. You just dab on the brakes, get back on the throttle. Deckers will get the first flying lap of the session. It's a 1:33.9. Right behind him, Darrell in the Sauber to the line, a 1:33.2. Immediately, much quicker. And we have got nearly every driver out on track now looking to pay dividends on their lap times. Harry in the Scarlet Red Ferrari. Matt Connor in the Works Mercedes just coming through turn 1 and 2. Blake has come to the line with a 34.1. He will definitely look to improve from that. Fozzie now goes over the line to start his lap. Tyler Adams goes into 4th with a 1:36.3. Definitely seeking a better lap time than that. It is then Mawashi who is just coming across the line now. Mawashi goes into P2, and that gap between first and second suddenly slows down, and even more as Billy Mewis now goes into second place. Only a few thousandths of a second between them. We now look, I believe, to the Ferrari of Harry, who's just making his way onto the massive straight. Patrick Dodge for VCarb goes into P4 with a 1:33.4, And Harry using all of that overtake button. DRS wide open on the back of the prancing horse. And into the hairpin. Gets it turned in nicely. Meets the apex. Gives it a little kiss for goodbye. And now will drag his way down towards the final corner. Gets it turned in nice and early. Doesn't meet any of the grass. Harry to the line for Ferrari and goes P3 with a 1:33.2. And that is the third 1:33.2 we've seen today. MCL goes into 8th with a 1:34.4. Definitely not the start to qualifying that Sauber would have wanted. As the McLaren of Hazuxi, I apologise if I'm mispronouncing that, goes into P6 with a 1:33.5. And look how close this grid is as Sidemen now goes to provisional pole position with a 1:33.1. Great lap from the Red Bull driver. Red Bull dominating Formula 1 in the past few years if you discount 2025. And Sidemen most certainly looking to make that happen again. We've got Sidemen, who I mentioned, is on top with a 1:33.1 after the first runs. It is then Darrell who's in second with a 1:33.2. And then there are two other drivers sharing the 1:33.2s. 33.2s. Those being Billy Mewis and Harry. Harry only 5 milliseconds off of Billy Mewis. And you want to know how quick 5 milliseconds is? If you blink, you've missed 5 milliseconds. That is how quick. Over a 1 minute and 33 lap of the Shanghai International Circuit, only 5 milliseconds could separate the pair of them. Fozzie is the only man, I believe, on a fast lap currently, unless any other drivers are doing a couple of laps on their soft compound tyres. I would imagine that isn't the best strategy. The softs do tend to die out around here, especially the, I believe, right-hand tyres around this particular configuration. They do get quite damaged. It's a 52-4 middle sector split for the Sauber driver. And he now makes his way out of this painstakingly long corner, just waiting to get the power down, waiting to stand on the loud pedal, and now drive up towards the hairpin and the penultimate corner. Fozzie doesn't have much overtake left. I imagine that will harm him as he makes his way into the braking zone. A little bit late of a turn in, just misses the apex, does the Sauber driver, but it's not looking like too shabby of a lap as he now makes his way towards the final corner, hits the apex nicely. What's the lap time going to be though? It's a 1:33.4 and Fozzie slots in to P6. Only two drivers yet to have set a lap, those being Saber Phoenix and Andy Price. Andy Price was on a lap beforehand, unfortunately for him, invalidated his lap, but back out straight away on another set of the soft compound tyres, and he will do his best now to try and A, get a valid lap, and B, get a fast one. A lot of chatters in chat. Welcome to all of you. Absolute pleasure to be live here streaming for you tonight. Our league owner F1 Mikey in the chat saying, have a great race, backing Matt Connor and Andy Price for the win. And I must say, from the first runs of qualifying, not looking ideal for an Andy Price or Matt Connor win, but we've still got 9 minutes and 40 seconds left of this qualifying session. And crazier things have happened in Formula 1 than people winning from the back of the grid. You just go back to Brazil last weekend. Max Verstappen, P3 from the pit lane. If he can do that from the pit lane, I'm sure Andy Price can do much better from a P15 start. Speak of the devil, he is just making his way into the turn 1 and 2 complex now, as I believe Hazuxi has just come across the line and just pipped ahead of Billy Mewis and Harry, still in that 1:33.2 range. We've now got 4 drivers in the 1:33.2s, and that just shows how close this league is. DJC in the chat asking, why is Billy a full-time driver in both leagues? Well, essentially, it is just different days. They are not tier-oriented. I can't even speak English. They're not tier-orientated. They're not pace-orientated. It's just, we open more days, the more drivers we get. So if we had 150 drivers, we'd probably have 7 days a week of racing. But with the capacity we've got at the minute, we've got 2 days of racing, those being Tuesdays and Thursdays. Anyone can race in either tier as long as there's space. Obviously, we're looking for reserve drivers as well. So if anyone in the chat is interested in racing, of course, we are more than welcoming absolutely everybody in, whether you think you're esports level or whether it is your first ever league that you will be joining. We are always looking for new drivers to get involved. Andy J. Price just coming out of the final hairpin now and towards the final corner. Is there time in this lap for the McLaren driver? Runs it wide and invalidates out of the final corner. It would have been a 1:33.6. That would have put him into P10, I believe. So definitely not ideal for Andy Price. Saber Phoenix is on his first flying lap of the session in the works Mercedes-Benz. And we know how good Mercedes can be when they turn the heat up. Is Saber Phoenix just the newest cog in the wheel for a Mercedes dynasty? We've seen it before with Toto Wolff, Pete Bonington and Lewis Hamilton. Is there maybe another Mercedes dynasty that is to be reborn in WRC? He makes his way now into, again, one of the most pivotal corners on this track. Picks up a little bit of grass on the turn-in, but I'm sure that won't harm him too much. Gets on the power very, very early and will now drain his battery all the way down this straight. Has to lift off a bit, actually, just in case he runs out before he gets to the hairpin, and does, in fact, run out before the end. So that will definitely harm the works Mercedes a little bit. Gets it turned in very, very nicely. Meets the apex absolutely beautifully. Saber Phoenix now comes around the final corner and drives to the line. Is there time in it for the Mercedes-Benz driver? He goes to provisional pole with a 1:32.8, 3/10 clear of sidemen. And I must admit, I did not see that coming from Saber Phoenix, running out of battery nearly halfway down the main straight and still able to convert a lap time like that. Absolutely incredible stuff from the Mercedes-Benz driver. And he moves up into provisional pole as then Billy Mewis immediately snatches it back with a 1:32.5. Brilliant lap from the Red Bull driver, 3/10 clear of the Mercedes. And we have seen Mercedes and Red Bull rivalries in Formula 1 before. This script has already been written. Is it about to be followed once more? Patrick Dodge is now coming to the final corner. He's coming into the pit lane. We now take a look at Mawashi, who is, I don't believe, on a lap. He may have just finished a lap, actually, and has done the exact same time as Hazuki. It's not often that you see that in Formula 1. It's not often that you see that in Formula 1 League racing. But absolutely incredible stuff from McLaren and the Williams driver, the pair of them, setting the exact same lap time. And if you are a bit newer to Formula 1, you might think, well, why is the McLaren ahead of the Williams when they've both got the same lap time? It just simply comes down to whoever set the lap time first. So with the McLaren setting the lap time first, he is the man that gets the track position. Darrell is currently on his second lap. Definitely a man you would imagine will be challenging for pole position here tonight. And Darrell makes his way towards the DRS zone, opens that rear wing now, and will drive towards the hairpin. Might get a little bit of a distant slipstream up ahead from his teammate. Gets it turned in nicely though. Takes a massive chunk out of the apex. I don't know if that's going to cost you time or gain you time. The Red Bull and the Sauber get out of the way, and Darrell now drives for the line. Is there time in this lap for Darrell? It puts him P2 with a 1:32.6, but I can imagine for Darrell, the ever-competitive Sauber driver, that is not where he would want to be. His teammate Fozzy now goes on to his second, I believe, flying lap of the session. Deckers is on an in-lap. MCL, I believe, is on a fast lap himself, a little bit wide out of there for the Haas driver. And MCL, a name that you would always expect to be up towards the front of the field, really seeming to be struggling. Down in 13th at the minute with a 1:34.4. And I mean, we've only seen a bit of this lap, but it's not looked neat and it's not looked tidy whatsoever. So MCL in the Haas car, DRS wide open, battery being drained all the way towards the hairpin. He's got plenty of battery left, and that's nearly round, and that's over the apex, and an invalidation for MCL. Really, really struggling is the Haas driver. Surely will be coming into box, and does so. But that is a very odd mistake for MCL, who is normally Mr. Consistent, setting lap times and purple sectors ablaze like no other. And MCL really struggling here in Shanghai. Lewis entering the chat. Good evening to you, Lewis. Hope your night is going well. We're currently on board with Deckers, who I believe is on his second lap of the session. And we'll see if Deckers can try and put some lap time down. Currently sat in 11th with a 1 minute 33.9. He's a 10th up. That wouldn't improve in position, but he has still got the longest sector of them all to go and plenty of battery to deploy as he makes his way towards the hairpin. Every single driver is in the pit lane waiting for the final runs, apart from this man. So this could be an important lap for Deckers, who I don't believe will get another lap time. The Alpine driver, through the hairpin he goes, and now towards the final corner. Is there time in this final sector for Deckers? He rides over the curbs. It's a big snap of oversteer. That's surely, it's still an improvement somehow. He must have had a mighty fine final sector up until that mistake. But Deckers will stay abreast of P11, and now everyone makes their way out of the pit lane. The track gets nice and busy once more. Andy Price is the man that leads that train, or he's actually well ahead of the rest of the guys coming out for laps. And this will be an important lap for Andy, currently sat in 15th, yet to set a lap time. This will be very important for the McLaren driver to try and not only lay a lap down, but lay a quick lap down. You would imagine there is time in there for him to be able to get of both of the Haas drivers, maybe ahead of Blake in the Williams, who I believe is having some connection issues. But Andy Price, maybe about to embark on the most important lap of his Formula One career. Yellow flags flying all across the circuit as people slow down and try and get the best track position that they possibly can. We will stick on board, though, with Andy Price on one of the most important laps of the weekend we will see. We've seen the league owner, Mikey Boy, in the chat saying that he is rooting for an Andy Price win. Well, starting from 15th is definitely not the place you want to start if your objective is to win the Grand Prix. He makes his way through turn 1 and 2 tight and neatly. Now makes his way out of the exit, deploying the overtake button. And the question is, where has he been invalidating before? And will that maybe play a bit on his mind? Billy Mewis and Sabre Phoenix now on laps as well as Tyler Adams, Patrick Dodge. It's Deckers. Harry now goes on to his lap for the Prancing Horse Ferrari. The lone Ferrari out here tonight. So definitely looking to impress Fred Vasseur as the only man that will be scoring Ferrari points if he can get himself into the points paying positions. Currently sat in 7th. You would imagine Harry will improve from there as Andy Price makes his way into such a critical corner around this circuit. He's managed to avoid the invalidation for now. He's just got to be careful at the hairpin and the final corner. And you would imagine there is time in it for him. Fozzie, Deckers and Blake will not get a lap time. They're all still in the pit lane. So qualifying is now over. These laps now count. And it is Andy Price who will be first to see the flag. He makes his way out of the hairpin and towards the final corner. There's one corner to go for the McLaren. He manages to negotiate it neatly. Is there lap time in it though? He comes to the line, goes into P7, a very important lap. But now we look to the provisional pole sitter, Billy Mewis. Can he extend his time? He's currently got a 32.5. He's got a 10th gap, but you would imagine Darrell will improve. The Red Bull through the final corner. Is there time in it? Yes, there is. A 32.2 from Billy Mewis. Patrick Dodge manages to go into P2. Sabre Phoenix stays in P4. So it now all comes down to the likes of Sidemen and Darrell. Darrell is just coming down the last straight. Harry, I don't believe, improved on his last lap. He didn't. Sidemen is just coming into the hairpin now. Hazuxi is just ahead of him. Hazuxi will now come to the line. No battery left to deploy for the McLaren driver. Goes ahead of Sidemen, who will immediately reply, though. And Sidemen cannot reply. It's not an improvement. Sidemen stays 6th. Mawashi now goes into P3. What of Daryl stays P4. And that is qualifying over. A 4/10 gap over the rest of the field. And it is Billy Mewis and Red Bull on pole position. An incredible lap from the Red Bull driver, and he will start at the front of the field. A late last gasp effort from Patrick Dodge will put him on the front row. That was definitely a little bit unexpected, at least from my point of view. That was definitely unexpected, but sticks himself on the second row. It is then Mawashi who is in 3rd with Daryl in 4th. Saber Phoenix lines up the first of the runners on the 3rd row of the grid from Hazuki. It is then Sidemen in 7th with Andy Price in 8th. Harry, the lone Ferrari, will be 9th with Matt Connor in 10th. It's Fozzie in 11th with Tyler Adams 12th. MCL down in a lowly 13th with Deckers in 14th and Blake rounding up the field in 15th. I don't believe Blake will be in the race. I believe Blake is having some connection issues. So we might see a little bit of a ghost at the back. I'm going to try and pronounce your name. I apologise if I get it wrong. Burdenose? First of all, I really appreciate the compliment. Thank you. How can you contact me? It's a good question. I would assume Discord would probably be the best way to do it. I will stick a message. Burdenose, I will reply. Well, I will add you back as a friend and shoot you a message after the stream if that's okay. I would imagine it will finish in about an hour, give or take. So hopefully that's all right, my friend. But no, I do really appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. As we now slowly await those 5 red lights. And I am just thinking, ladies and gentlemen, those clouds look a little bit grey. Is there maybe potential of some rain in this Chinese Grand Prix? It's definitely not the first time we would see rain in the Chinese Grand Prix. Oh, Harry coming in the chat telling us no rain. Okay, so my conspiracy theory immediately shut down. Apparently it's getting warmer, which, Harry, your tyre temperature issues that you've been having definitely will not be helping you. I am sure of that. But most certainly a great season opener ahead of us. And you've got to think, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time watching WRC, this is only round 1 of the season. It's only going to get better from here. So if you are interested, do drop a follow down below. We are live on TikTok. We are live on Twitch every Tuesday and every Thursday. On Tuesdays, you have the pleasure of listening to Jack Crossley on the commentary. And then on the Thursdays, I will be back in the commentary booth live with you for this season. We'll be going in about 3 minutes time, I believe. So 3 minutes just to sort of debrief from qualifying. Harry coming in the chat and letting us know that Harry's doing a 2-stop. So definitely going to be some varying strategies. Maybe some drivers going for the 1-stop, some drivers going for the 2-stop strategy. Always massively key in Formula 1 league racing. And this is definitely going to be something to keep your eyes on. I think the first lap around here can be very important. Obviously, with the massive DRS straight that we have down the back straight, it can be very, very easy to overtake. But in the middle sector and in the first sector, maybe not so easy. So it's definitely going to be pivotal to how much battery you have going down that back straight, how close you are to the car ahead. I'd imagine you want to be within sort of 5-6 tenths of the car ahead coming out of the sort of long right-hander to try and make a pass on the car ahead. That's provided if you have DRS, and if the car ahead of you doesn't have DRS or does have DRS, it can all vary, obviously with the battery percentages as well. But this is definitely one of those races that you need to keep your head screwed on. So definitely going to be one of those races that comes down a lot strategically, but also just on track. You've got to get your elbows out a little bit, don't you? So it's definitely going to be a fun one to watch this. Just a minute to go until those fabled 5 red lights go out in front of us and we begin a new dawn and a new season in WRC. But like I say, if you enjoyed that qualifying session, plenty more of it to come. 8 rounds of this season. So if you are new, drop a follow on TikTok, drop a follow on Twitch. Hell, even if you just like listening to me commentate, you like the sound of my voice maybe, drop a follow down below and we'll be live every Tuesday and every Thursday bringing you Formula 1 league racing action. And if you are interested in getting into the league, go to the TikTok, just drop a comment on one of the TikTok videos and we will make sure we get you in and you can find yourself on the big screen at home, coming to a home near you soon. You could maybe see yourself on the big one winning in WRC. Here we go then, those fabled 5 red lights and the formation lap is underway and Billy Mewis will lead them away then. It's Patrick Dodge who lines up in second and we will quickly get all the telemetry up. What tyres are we talking here? So it's Billy Mewis and Patrick Dodge on the medium compound tyres. We've got a few hard runners, those being Mawashi, Fozzie, Deckers and Blake, and MCL, sorry. A few gamblers on the softs, all starting next to each other. Andy Price, Matt Connor and Fozzie all deciding that the softs is the way to go. So you would imagine the guys on the softs definitely going to be 2-stopping. Sidemen Hazuxi, Saber Phoenix, Daryl, Patrick, Billy and Tyler Adams all on the medium compound tyres. So definitely a mixed grid in terms of tyre choice. And we just await for those fabled 5 red lights. And that will decide what tyre strategy is better. I did say Tuesdays. Burdenose. I really hope I'm saying your name right. Burdenose. Yes. We race on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays, I personally don't commentate. That's done by my friend Jack Crossley. Absolutely brilliant commentator is Jack. So definitely, if you are free on Tuesdays, make sure you stick around for him because he is absolutely brilliant. And then I personally commentate every Thursday here. Call you Burden. Okay, no worries. Cool. Appreciate that. I didn't want to butcher it. I didn't want to be mean and get it wrong. I am indeed free on Tuesdays, yes. If you're inquiring. For the time being, I am free on Tuesdays. Here we go then. To the end of the formation lap. And Billy Mewis just weaving to get those tyres warmed up. We've got Blake at the back who seems to have fallen back a bit, as you can see, in ghost mode. So you would imagine that he won't be able to take part in this race. Saber Phoenix and Hazuxi, sorry, evidently having a little bit of an issue on the formation lap, a bit of contact, and both of them disqualified from the formation lap. But everyone parks themselves up in their grid slots then, and we get ready to go racing. Scarlet Red Ferrari of Harry lining his way up. Matt Connor, Harry very slow into his grid box. And there we see Deckers and Blake get themselves lined up then. And here we go to the front of the field. It is a new season in WRC. 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. And it is foot flat to the floor as it's lights out, and away we go. Billy Mewis gets away well from pole position, and Patrick Dodge will have Mawashi on his outside into turn 1. The Williams challenging away with the V-carb. McLaren on the inside of Andy Price, looking to get a bit racy. But Patrick Dodge manages to hold that position. Hazuxi looking to get racy, loses out to Mawashi on the outside. Saber Phoenix in 5th as we got a little bit of contact in the background. And this middle pack already losing out. We're on board with the Ferrari of Harry, who's looking to dive it down the inside. There's contact from the rear, and that's big crash into turn 3. Harry is the beneficiary of it after getting tagged in the rear. I can't speak English at the minute. Absolutely amazing on-track action, but the dream start for Billy Mewis, nearly already a second clear of the V-car behind him. It is then Mawashi in 3rd, Saber Phoenix in 4th, Hazuxi in 5th. Harry on the soft compound tyres will look to stretch that gap a little bit closer to the McLaren ahead of him before we get DRS enabled next lap. It is then Deckers on the hard compound tyres making a move on Sidemen up into 9th, and these two still wheel to wheel as we go through the long apex, and you can see both of them deploying all of the battery possible to try and get ahead of each other. Deckers is going to be the man that gives up first, so Sidemen looks to the inside of the hairpin. Is there enough space down the inside? It's very, very close to contact. Deckers runs wide. There is contact, and was there a bit of carbon fibre flying off of the front of that Alpine? It all looks to be intact for now, but Billy Mewis leads lap 1 then. It's Patrick Dodge in 2nd place with Mawashi in 3rd. It is Saber Phoenix in 4th with Hazuxi in 5th. Harry is in 6th and just maybe struggling a bit as the Works Mercedes of Matt Connor looks to try and overtake. Andy J. Price has fallen towards the back of the field, and that does look like he's had a little bit of a spin, a little bit of contact there with MCL, who already picks up a 3-second time penalty. And that is definitely not ideal for him. Only 1 lap into this race, and Andy Price is throwing it down the inside in the McLaren. MCL looks for the switchback. Doesn't look to have the traction, though. Andy up to 14th. And the gap between Patrick and Billy, just keeping it a little bit true, is Patrick. And he looks like he is going to get the DRS. So Billy Mewis, while it was the dream lap 1, maybe not the dream lap 2 for him, as Patrick will be gaining. Harry will be the one that's really struggling without any DRS and the same battery as the car behind him. Surely we're on for a move here from Matt Connor on Harry, and the issue for Harry is Sidemen is right behind this battle as well, so he might be able to improve position too as we go on board with the Mercedes. Harry draining all the battery possible. The Mercedes is gaining though. To the inside of the hairpin we're going. Late on the brakes down the inside. Daniel Ricciardo-esque here in China, and Deckers manages to get his way through. Not Deckers, sorry, Matt Connor. I'm looking at the wrong person there. As Sidemen also manages to sneak through. Harry down to 8th. Matt Connor up to 6th. Sidemen up to 7th. While that was going on, the battle I was looking at in the telemetry, Deckers up to 10th, just looking to defend from Fozzie behind him. Does have the DRS to assist him in doing that. And you can see with the DRS, Patrick Dodge very, very close behind Billy Mewis. It's then Mawashi who's in 3rd on the hard compound tyres. Very well placed for the Williams team. He will look to go long in this first stint and make those tyres last as long as possible. Harry still on the back of Matt Connor, who has been overtaken by Sidemen down into, I believe, the first corner. Doesn't look like we've got any damage for anyone so far, so definitely everyone keeping it as clean as possible. MCL now down behind Blake. Blake is with us and racing, which is always good to see. And as we now make our way towards the DRS zone once more, Patrick has fallen out of the DRS, and Billy Mewis maybe using a little bit more overtake on this lap to get him out of that DRS zone. 1.1 seconds to gap, and Patrick will not have the DRS. So is there an opportunity for Mawashi to try and make a move? Because he will have the DRS. He will gain on the V-carb. He will use his battery. Is there enough time gain as we go to the hairpin to the outside? Is the chosen line? Is he now going to look to duck under and switch back? That's exactly what he's going to do, as Patrick runs very wide off into the gravel, loses a handful of positions in the process, was running second, now down in fifth, and will have sidemen all over the back of him, who picks up a 3-second penalty running wide out of the final corner. Mawashi manages to get himself ahead of Sabre Phoenix and up into second place, and Mawashi driving a brilliant race so far in this Chinese Grand Prix. But Sabre Phoenix isn't going to give this battle up, going to look to go around the outside. Hazuki is on the back of this battle. If any of them come to blows, they are still wheel to wheel. Both Mercedes powered. Williams versus Mercedes, so close to contact as we go through turn 4. And somehow they still come out wheel to wheel. Incredible early battling. Lap 4 of 28. Mawashi just manages to get ahead, but both of them using all their battery in the process, and Hazuki will now surely have a brilliant chance come the DRS zone with nearly quadruple their battery. This is surely gonna be the McLaren's time. Sidemen still manages to retain himself in 6th, and he is right on the back of Patrick Dodge, now 2.6 seconds off of this podium battle. And to the DRS zone we go then. Is there an opportunity? Mawashi, Sabre Phoenix and Hazuki all using their battery, but you can see already Sabre Phoenix is running out, but he is gaining on the Williams. Which line is he going to choose? It's the inside of the hairpin. The move is already done before the hairpin is even a corner to think about, and Sabre Phoenix moves up into second place, and they are still keeping themselves relatively close to Billy Mewis actually, as Sabre Phoenix is going to get the DRS. Won't have any battery to use, unfortunately for him. And he's got the added benefit of Mawashi right behind him, who just looks about going around the outside. That's a little bit too wide though. Hazuki on the inside, maybe thinking about pinching a move, but unfortunately the corner tightens up before he can think about that. Looking further down the field, we've got Harry, who's into the pit lane, and you would imagine an early stop like that can only be constituted by front wing damage. So Harry definitely in the wars. He was in that battle with sidemen Patrick, Matt Connor and Darrell. So definitely interesting to wonder what's happened there. Out in front though, Billy Mewis continuing to lead, has led from the start, and we're now on lap 5 of 28. Sabre Phoenix is keeping him true though, and is a little bit closer than anyone has been. And we've got a yellow flag, and that was Andy Price, I believe, having a little bit of a moment, spinning around on those soft compound tyres. Definitely not working the way that the soft runners would have wanted them to. Matt Connor, you can see visibly already struggling, and those tyres do not look like they're in the best condition. That is for sure. He will have the DRS on Patrick, but Patrick will have the DRS on sidemen. So is there an overtaking opportunity as we go into the hairpin? Just doesn't look like he's gaining enough. Neither is the Mercedes, and they all stay 5th, 6th and 7th in that order as we go through the hairpin. Deckers looking for a move on Fozzie. This would be a defensive move as Fozzie has just gone past. Runs a little bit deep into the hairpin though. Is there an opportunity for Deckers to try and get back past? Unfortunately not. De Sauber slams the door shut and retains 10th place, but Deckers now with the DRS pulls towards the outside. Into turn 1 we go. It's going to be 3 abreast as we go into turn 1 here. We've got a Williams on the inside. That's Blake, and it does come to blows at turn 1. Blake, unfortunately, well, he manages to save it. It's not a full-on spin, but loses a handful of positions. Looked like he was going to be up into 10th, now down to 13th. And you always knew something like that was going to happen when they were that close. And that's a big crash into the wall there for Fozzie and Deckers. Both of them wheel locking on the exit, and the safety car immediately deployed. A massive crash on lap 6 of 28. Deckers and Fozzie come to blows. And after turn 1, where Blake was spun around, he manages to gain back both of those positions as Deckers and Fozzie straight into the wall. I don't think that was anyone's fault. It looked like they were just driving wheel to wheel and then wheel locked, and the pair of them colliding into the wall together. The lucky thing for them is they're both in the race, but Decker's without a front wing, Fozzie with massive front wing damage. Both of them surely will be coming into the pit lane. Andy Price and Harry will be happy about this safety car, I must imagine, seeing as they were lagging back at the back of the field. I'd imagine someone like Billy Mewis will probably be quite happy, and Sabre Phoenix, who are really fighting to hold their positions. The question is, do any of them come into the pits? Billy Mewis will be the first man to make that option, and does, as does Sabre Phoenix. Blake gets a 10-second time penalty for a severe collision with MCL. That's definitely a bit of a weirder one. Mawashi stays out on the hard compound tyres and takes the lead of the race. Everyone else is coming into the pits, it looks like. MCL, is he going to stay out on the hards? No, he's going to come in. Blake is also going to come in. Fozzie, obviously, going to come in, as is Deckers. And then you would imagine Harry and Andy, having just pitted, will stay out. But that will be your order then. It will be Mawashi who will lead, from Billy Mewis in second place. Sabre Phoenix in third, with Hazuki in fourth. And most of them onto the hards. We've got Sabre Phoenix, who I'm sure, I'm going to have to check this, started on the mediums. He did. So Sabre Phoenix is guaranteed two-stopping, as is MCL, as is Blake. That's a little bit weird from Sabre Phoenix, I must admit. That wouldn't have been my preferred choice of strategy. I definitely would have chosen the hard tyres, especially with everyone around me on the hards. It doesn't look like it's that easy to pull a gap. And you'd imagine Sabre Phoenix's thinking is, well, I'll get the medium tyres on, I'll break a gap to everyone else, and then I'll come in for my other pit stop and regain the time. But I don't imagine he's going to be able to pull a gap, especially with drivers like Mawashi and Billy Mewis ahead of him. If you are just tuning in, lap 7 of 28 of the Chinese Grand Prix. We are live here in WRC. My name is Jack, I'm your commentator. And we have got a safety car deployed here on lap 7 due to a crash between Fozzie and its Deckers. Both of them careering into the wall. Both of them managing to stay in the race, which is the important thing. And Decker's saying, I can't tell if I just caused 2 crashes or if they were ridiculously stupid moves. To be honest, obviously, I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I'm not biased to anyone. Turn 1, I didn't see enough of it to have an opinion. I caught the end of the incident with Fozzie, and it looked like a racing incident, to be completely honest. No damage, softs are bad. Safety car is amazing for me now. Harry, definitely very happy then. Tyler Adams coming into the pit lane to retire after receiving a 10-second penalty for a severe collision with Harry. Harry currently down in 9th place. Will definitely look to improve from there though. Perfect timing for a safety car. Elevates in positions and catches up with the rest of the field. Still got a couple more drivers to catch up, those being MCL, Deckers, Andy Price, Fozzie and Blake. But you would imagine safety car won't be in this lap. I would assume the safety car will be in next lap, if I had to take a wild guess. Although, you never know, sometimes it will be in immediately. Tyler Adams hit you, Harry. He's got some choice words for you in the Discord. Apparently you're lagging and it's your internet. I believe that's what he's trying to say. Need to see his POV. I blinked, almost turned. Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, it looked like a racing incident, but obviously I didn't see the full thing unfold. And I only saw one camera angle of it. I haven't seen onboards or anything. But from my position, I would have said, yeah, racing incident. Safety car is in this lap, though, and it will be Mawashi that leads the drivers away. Now, the question is, when do you go around a track where it is easy to get past at a safety car restart? You can see all of the drivers weaving away, apart from that one lone Haas of MCL. It's like that shot of Kimi Räikkönen, the only man not weaving. We've got a bit of damage there. I've just seen an end plate, and Darrell's got a 10-second penalty for a severe collision with Matt Connor. So you'd imagine it's Darrell that's ended up getting the damage. They are all going very slowly here. You know, you see 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour. And this is definitely a bit drama-filled. Is it Darrell that's got the damage? It is Darrell that's got the damage. No front right end plate. And Mawashi has gone very, very early. Billy Mewis is right there with him as we now blast on to lap 9. And towards the inside looks the Red Bull. Is there a gap to try and dive down the inside? He is going to go for it. The Williams runs wide, and now he's got a Mercedes up the inside of Sabre Phoenix. Inside now turns to the outside. There's a little bit of contact between them, and Mawashi, with the worst possible safety car restart, now has Hazuki on his outside. Already lost 2 positions. Is that about to be 3? McLaren with the inside line gets it turned in. Sidemen's also there to try and make a move. The McLaren goes through, as does Sidemen. So Mawashi, who was leading but 4 corners ago, now down to 5th position and is really struggling with the cold tyres. Incredible stuff on the opening phase of this safety car restart. Mawashi down to 5th, and he's now got Patrick Dodge all over the back of him. Darrell, you can see, evidently struggling with the damage that he picked up under the safety car. Everyone getting through cleanly, though, as it looks like we've got a spinner, and that's Mawashi. Patrick Dodge gets a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. Mawashi goes round, though, and the man that was leading at the start of this lap now is 11th and has got Andy Price all over the back of him as Sabre Phoenix goes down the inside into the hairpin, manages to take the lead, and there is action absolutely everywhere you look as up the inside goes Harry of Darrell into the hairpin. Deckers has got a prime time view of this as Darrell will hold the inside line. Harry just not able to get through, but Darrell runs way off the track. Surely gains an advantage, now loses that advantage as he rejoins, is going to lose the position to Harry, loses the position to Deckers, and Darrell really, really struggling with that damage. Patrick Dodge comes into the pits to retire from the session. Mawashi comes into the pits, and is there damage on that Williams car? It doesn't look like it, so just in for a tyre change. The hard tyres really not treating him well as MCL now manages to get through on Deckers. Deckers is going to look to fight this one back. Is there enough grip for him? No, it doesn't look like there is. And MCL is through up into 8th place. Blake picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. And what a start that was then for Sabre Phoenix. Darrell saying that his accelerator pedal has snapped. And that is definitely not what you want. I mean, you can see his throttle input. It doesn't look to be really in any good shape. Currently down in 11th. Now has his teammate diving down the inside. But here's the battle for the lead then. Billy Mewis versus Sabre Phoenix. Billy has the DRS. Doesn't have any battery. He is gaining on the back of the Mercedes. Is there a gap down the inside the hairpin? There isn't. Is there a gap for Sidemen? Potentially no. Is there a gap for Deckers? Yes, there is. On the inside of Harry. And the Ferrari really not able to fight that one. Has to concede the position as we've got a yellow flag. And I believe, yes, that is for Darrell, who is really struggling with that issue. You can retire in the pits, Darrell. That won't be a problem. Darrell says that his accelerator pedal is completely snapped. Darrell, you can come into the pits and retire. That's not an issue at all. That is heartbreaking stuff for the Sauber driver, who does peel away into the pit lane. Has a little spin as he gets going, giving us a little bit of a style show. And that will be Darrell's race over. Definitely not what we would want to see. But Darrell, I'm sure, will be back stronger and better in weeks to come. Harry and Deckers still fighting away through the middle sector. Andy Price looking to get himself gained up a few places. Harry looking to go around the outside. Definitely an unorthodox overtaking place this. But Harry has managed to pull it off. Incredible move I don't think it's the smartest thing, because now Deckers is going to get DRS, and he has actually given Harry a little bit of a kiss on the rear end as Harry breaks traction. Is there a gap for Sabre Phoenix potentially? There is more than enough gap for Sabre Phoenix, who flies by Billy Mewis and back into the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix. And there we see a little bit of contact between Hazuki and Billy Mewis. Doesn't look like any damage is done though. Deckers and Harry still scrapping away out of the hairpin, and Andy Price is gaining more than enough time here. Deckers has to get out of the throttle as Harry shows him the grass. DRS once again for Deckers. Harry with a little bit more battery though. Is there a bit of a gap for the Alpine to try and make a move? It doesn't look like there is into turn one, and Harry will keep that position for now. The two leaders still battling away, Sabre Phoenix and Billy Mewis. But it is the Works Mercedes of Sabre who manages to stay in front. Big contact there between Billy and Sabre. Billy just missing his braking zone. But Sabre keeps the position. I think Billy backed off, knew that he'd done wrong there. Sabre Phoenix does have a penalty though, and bringing that up, we will quickly look at the time penalty situation. It is 3 seconds for Sabre Phoenix, Sidemen and MCL. And it is then 6 seconds for Blake in the Williams. Time penalties can always pay dividends in a Formula 1 league race. And look at the gap that the top four has to 5th place. 2.9 seconds. Matt Connor really in a race of his own here. 5 seconds behind him. 2.8 seconds ahead of him. Will there be a change for the lead on this lap though? Billy Mewis is gaining, and there's a lot of time left before we reach the hairpin. Is there a gap down the inside? It doesn't look like it. Hazuki doesn't have a gap either. Sabre Phoenix though does run wide out of the hairpin, manages to get better traction, and Sabre Phoenix retains his lead for now. But Billy Mewis is still looking to gain with the DRS. Doesn't have any ERS left, but neither does Sabre Phoenix, and Billy is gaining to the inside of turn one. Sabre's forced wide. Is there a gap for the Red Bull to go to? Sabre will now have the inside line as we dive down into turn two, but it's a lovely move from Billy Mewis, who moves himself back up into the lead, and there's massive contact there, and onto the gravel go Sidemen and Hazuki, and Sidemen trying to force his opponent off, and both of them come a cropper to it. Hazuki definitely was left worse off there. It is Matt Connor who is currently in 5th and is gaining, and it's Mawashi who comes into the pits to retire from the session. I don't know if Harry has had some sort of incident somewhere, but currently down in last place in 5.7 seconds off of the main pack. That's definitely not where you'd expect Harry to be. Daryl, I will check my Discord after the race. Don't worry, my friend. Sabre Phoenix really has been dropped by Billy Mewis on this lap. I don't even know if Sabre Phoenix is going to get the DRS. And that would be a massive blow to his chances of a win. He does manage to just about stay in the DRS. But Billy Mewis in clean air, showing that he has got masses of pace in abundance to try and take to the top step of the podium. Sabre Phoenix gains. Not enough time gain for a move though. Elsewhere, we see a massive battle here as we go down into the hairpin. That's involving Andy Price, Deckers, MCL and Blake. Fozzie's also involved in that battle. MCL gets passed by Blake, and unfortunately for the Haas driver, isn't able to try and come back at him to make a move. Blake is gaining with the DRS, but it looks like Andy Price is the man that's really gaining. Deckers looks to force him towards the outside. Andy tries to hang it around the outside, but so hard to keep it round there. Just not enough grip off of the racing line, and Andy will have to settle for 7th for the time being. It is then Deckers who is running in 6th, and then the closest battle on track besides Andy Price and Deckers, who are wheel to wheel into turn 4. Deckers, perfect defense in that Alpine, making it as wide as possible, manages to get himself back up into 6th after losing it momentarily. But the closest battles on track really are in this pack. The leaders though still relatively close to each other. Billy Mewis looks like he has a mighty middle sector in him to just bring out that gap, and you can see there the gap extending and extending and extending. Definitely better on traction, it looks like, is the Red Bull of Billy Mewis. But in a straight line and through the faster speed stuff, Sabre Phoenix is definitely the car you would want to be in. Is there enough of a gap? Down the inside of the hairpin, he gets out of the dirty air, maybe trying to spook Billy into a mistake. Billy not going to be as easily sweated as that. Andy Price does finally manage to get up into 6th, and now Blake looks to try and take 7th away from Deckers. Deckers a little bit boxed in there by the McLaren and the Williams, and Andy moves up to 6th, Blake up to 7th, and it is Deckers down to 8th. MCL now looking to try and gain that position back, but it's actually Deckers who is going to go to the inside of Blake as we blast into turn 1. Is there a move on for the Alpine driver? The Williams goes wide, and yes, there is a massive move on there. Deckers regains one of the positions he lost, and Deckers moves back up into 7th place and will surely set after his in-race rival of Andy Price. Out in front, Sidemen is keeping true to the back of Sabre Phoenix. Red Bull having a great day out here in China, currently running 1 and 3, and most certainly looking on for a 1 and 3. Brilliant stuff from the Red Bull team that really look to be making themselves early Constructors' Championships contenders. McLaren also having a very good day, currently running in 4th and 6th. I must say, if you really want to look to a poor day for teams, you've got to look at Ferrari. Harry, the only runner, currently not in the points. You've got to look at Haas, 1 car out, 1 car 10th. Sauber, 1 car out, 1 car 9th. It's not really going well for those guys down at the bottom. But for Sabre Phoenix and Billy Mewis, who are still doing battle, Sidemen trying to make his way past the Mercedes and make it a Red Bull 1-2. And what a sight that would be as Sabre Phoenix dives into the pit lane, runs very, very deep in the pit lane, I must say. And Sabre Phoenix moves out of the way into the pits then. And it is officially a Red Bull 1-2 here in China. Where have I seen this script before? The question is, where will Sabre Phoenix come out? He's going to come out behind this pack. You'd imagine he'll come out behind Harry. So that will place him in dead last. It will. So Sabre Phoenix is going to have not only a lot of time to gain, but a lot of cars to overtake as well. 10 of them, to be exact, if he wants to get to the lead of this race. Sidemen just about still in the DRS of his teammate, but it is really teetering on the edge. I do just wonder maybe if it is in Billy's best interests to try and drag Sidemen along with him, so Sidemen can always be like a rear gunner to him if Sabre Phoenix does reappear. Sidemen does have a 3-second penalty as well, so he wouldn't have to worry about Sidemen overtaking him and gaining the position. The gap to Hazuki is currently 3.0 seconds as we speak, and definitely not looking like he's gaining anytime soon, especially with Sidemen in the DRS, although he's not in the DRS at this current moment, although definitely close enough to it. And the gaps now do just open up a bit as Andy Price has really scampered away from that mid-pack battle. Deckers is still involved in it, Blake is still involved in it, then Fozzie's just a little bit further back, and then you've got MCL and Sabre Phoenix just 1.5 seconds off of Harry. Blake and Deckers battling into the hairpin. Wheel-to-wheel action between the Williams and the Alpine. The Alpine just has to back out for the time being. Blake moves through into 6th place, but Deckers with the DRS will look to try and gain that position back to the inside of turn 1, and the move is done before the corner even comes up. The Williams will try and barge his way through on the inside. Gets a wheel up the inside, to be fair to him. This is very, very close between the Alpine and the Williams. Inside now turns to outside. Is there enough grip off of the racing line for Blake? It doesn't look like there is. Deckers manages to regain 6th place. But this is a brilliant battle between the pair of them, putting on a real show for us here on this Thursday evening in Shanghai. Fozzie is now within their DRS. That battle really not helping them as Blake looking to go up the inside. Definitely an unorthodox overtaking place, that is for sure. And managing to swoop round the outside and take the position up into 6th place. Beautiful racing from the pair of them. Very minimal contact. And Blake manages to get through. Fozzie is back in the DRS. That's dragging MCL along as well, as there is contact between the four of them, and now they are all right with each other. As we make our way towards the DRS zone, Blake, Deckers, Fozzie and MCL. Which one of them is going to win out? Saber Phoenix also has DRS on Harry, but you would imagine that isn't really going to be a move that's contested by Harry. Deckers manages to move up into 6th place. Fozzie looks to chuck it down the inside. Massive contact. And round goes Deckers through no fault of his own. It looked there like it was Fozzie that really caused that. Diving his way into the hairpin. Slamming into the back of Blake. And then Deckers was just the man that really fell out of that one. Comes into the pit lane, as does Harry, for their next pit stops. So that leaves Fozzie in 7th, but you would imagine with damage, and yes, with damage, MCL up to 6th. It's then Saber Phoenix now up to 8th and all of that commotion. Blake down to 9th, and Deckers and Harry both into the pit lane will come out very, very close to each other. Both of them on the medium tyres. While we've been watching those battles, Billy Mewis and Sidemen still continue to lead. Are they all pitting again? I don't believe so, Burden. We will quickly check. So, Billy, Sidemen, Hazuki, Matt Connor, Andy Price do not have to pit again. MCL will. Fozzie, Saber Phoenix won't. Blake will. So, we're looking at Blake and MCL have to pit again. I wouldn't imagine Billy and Sidemen will. Just because of how far they are ahead of everyone else. But you never know. There could always be contact. There could always be a safety car. And immediately they come into the pit lane again. You never know. Someone like Sidemen, who is currently in 2nd, needs a big gap on his teammate if he wants to win the race. Although winning the race, the best way to win the race is to lead the race. And he is really gaining up to the back of his teammate, who runs a little bit wide. Matt Connor now dives into the pit lane. So it does look like it's time for the second round of stops as Fozzie comes into the pit lane, followed by MCL. A little bit of contact in the pit lane there between the Sauber and the Haas as Harry and Deckers fight their way through the hairpin. I can't imagine Harry's happy about this. He will just want to get on the back of the battles. But Harry manages to keep the position up into 10th. And that demotes Deckers down to 11th. Billy Mewis still continues to lead this one. And like I say, if I was in the shoes of either Red Bull, I would personally stay out. Unless someone like Hazuki or Andy Price pitted. Because with a 5-second gap, you've got that buffer where you can stay out another lap and still come out in front, even with the undercut. So I would imagine they'll stay out unless the McLaren's box. But it is definitely looking a bit like Noah's Ark at the top of the grid. Red Bull, McLaren, McLaren, and one Red Bull is gaining on the other. Sidemen, for the first time in this race, looking for a move for the lead. To the inside of the hairpin he goes, and Sidemen momentarily takes the lead of the race, but Billy, with a beautifully executed switchback, will look to take the position away and swoops around the outside of the final corner. Billy back into the lead, and that was a very calculated move. Brilliant stuff from Billy. How do you not have professional offers already? Well, thank you. That's a massive compliment. I've only really been commentating consistently for about 4 or 5 months now. I did some work for a league before that all ended. I'm now here in WRC, which I'm absolutely loving at the minute. It's my first night in WRC, but just the community in WRC, the leaders, the owners, absolutely brilliant. Of course, you know, the dream would be to go professional one day, whether that is live motorsport or you're talking something like PSGL or WRR or something like that. But at the end of the day, I love commentating. It's one of my passions. So whether it's to 5 viewers or to 500 viewers, it honestly does not matter to me. I just simply love commentating, and that's that really. Billy Mewis still managing to hold off his teammate for the time being. 8 tenths is the gap, and we have seen Hazuki make his way into the pit lane. That would be, you would imagine, to cover off Matt Connor. So will we see Andy Price in this lap? Will we see either of the Red Bulls in this lap as they continue to battle their way into the hairpin. It looks like they stay in the same order for now. No moves are being made. And you can see there, Andy Price, will he come into the pits? Is that Billy Mewis in the pits? It is. Billy Mewis into the pit lane then. So you would imagine Sidemen will be into the pits at the end of this lap, because I can't imagine Sidemen will want to stay out on those tyres. Although, thinking about it, only 7 laps to go, you've got to think, maybe there's not enough time for them to gain that gap, and maybe for Sidemen with the penalty, it is worth the risk of staying out. Yeah, 4 months, Bernard. I've done it for about 3 years, but it was very on and off. I would more race, and then I'd do, you know, one commentary a season sort of thing. And then I packed it in for about a year. Then I kind of started doing it again, and then I got back into it. And then recently, like I say, I'm got to be about 4 or 5 months ago, is when I really got into it. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. So hopefully that sort of thing will come one day. But for now, I just love what I'm doing. I love my job, and yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Sabre Phoenix, the man that pitted first in that big top 4, top 5 sort of pack, is right on the back of Andy Price now. 13.7 seconds the gap to Sidemen, but Sabre Phoenix has really undercut Billy, has undercut Hazuki and Matt Connor. Although, with the Red Bull, McLaren and Mercedes all being on the medium compound tyres, you would imagine they will gain quickly. So that's an important move for Sabre Phoenix. A little bit of a wiggle on the rear end. Manages to keep the position, though. He definitely doesn't want to do that one too many times, because those tyres will be screaming at him to get off the car in Parc Ferme, sorry. Andy Price will look to try and have a run back at him with the DRS. Doesn't look like there's enough pace in that McLaren tonight, though. Sabre Phoenix moves through into second place. Matt Connor sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:35.9 and is actually right on the back of Hazuki, having pitted a lap earlier. And those tyres most certainly working well for the Works Mercedes. Brilliant stuff from him. MCL is right on the back of Harry. Again, a little bit of a DRS train forming behind the Scarlet Red Ferrari. Not many penalties thus far. We'll take a look at the penalties situation. It's a 3-second penalty for Sidemen, Sabre Phoenix, Andy Price, MCL and Fozzy. And then a 19-second penalty for Blake. I don't know where he's picked up a 19-second penalty. I think he got a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. But then 9 seconds, definitely not ideal. Deckers and Fozzy doing battle once more. We've seen these two go into the wall once already this weekend, and there is even more contact between the Sauber and the Alpine. They manage to get through cleanly, though. And Fozzy holds the position for now. I mean, not going to lie, I can tell that you like it. You have so much passion. Completely, man. And that's just what I try to put across. You know, if people hear how passionate I am, I hope it makes it a bit more interesting for the people watching. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, my job as a commentator is to enhance the action. The real action is these guys, the drivers, racing, giving it absolutely everything. My job is just to simply enhance it, maybe give people some info if there's people watching Formula 1 League racing for the first time, or just getting into Formula 1 who want to learn a bit. I'm more than happy to pass down some information. I myself, I've been watching Formula 1 since 2008. So I definitely know a thing or two about the sport. So I do absolutely love this. And like I say, just putting the passion across, I think that really enhances what these guys are doing out on track. Not going to lie, if you're able to commentate in the league where I'm in, it would just be perfect. Hopefully we can get a deal done, my friend. Hopefully. Because, like I say, I absolutely love doing it. And if I could, I'd do it 7 days a week. So, yeah. Hopefully we can get a deal across the line. Sidemen continues to lead then. 11 seconds is the gap to Sabre Phoenix, and that gap is coming down a relatively large amount. But with only 5 laps to go in this Chinese Grand Prix, Sidemen maybe starting to sniff a first race win and an inaugural win in this division in WRC. Billy Mewis is really gaining on the back of Andy Price. Doesn't have the DRS, but is well within the DRS gap now. As we go into the hairpin, you can see how much later Billy Mewis is able to brake on the fresher rubber. As he now goes into the final corner, is there an opportunity into turn one? You can see Andy Price struggling with the turn-in. And is this Andy tumbling out of the podium positions? It is, as Billy Mewis swoops around the outside, takes the position away, and it is a Red Bull 1-3 once more. But this time, it is Sidemen in first, with Billy Mewis in third. Harry still doing a great job of holding all these guys behind. You've got the likes of MCL, Fozzie and Deckers, who are all doing battle in behind. Harry just keeping a composed head. Still running in 7th place, and that would be good points, considering the race that the Ferrari has had. Most certainly looking to score a bit more, but 7th place from where he has been, down in plumb last 15th. Definitely wouldn't be a terrible result. That gap is coming down. I would like to say about 1.5 seconds a lap between Sidemen and Sabre. The only issue is it would be fine if it were just Sabre that was gaining, because Sidemen and Sabre both have the penalty. But Billy Mewis is right on the back of Sabre Phoenix. He is well within the DRS, and he is on the faster, fresher tyres. Is Billy Mewis now lining up a move on the Works Mercedes, who has been battling all race long. And there's a little bit of a lock-up there for Sabre Phoenix. Billy Mewis flicking the Red Bull into the hairpin. Now the question is, will these guys have a proper battle? Because if they do, that is only going to help Sidemen. Billy Mewis, though, is gaining towards turn one. He's going down the inside at turn one. Sabre Phoenix will look to hold it round the outside, but unfortunately for the Mercedes driver, there's not enough grip offline, especially on 9-lap worn hard tyres, and Billy Mewis moves through up into 2nd place. It is a Red Bull 1-2 once more, and Billy Mewis now 8.3 seconds he's got to chase down to his teammate. There's 3 laps to go, and Billy Mewis hasn't actually got to chase down 8.1 seconds, or whatever the gap is now, because of that 3-second penalty for Sidemen. So you take 3 seconds off of that, he's only got to gain about 5 seconds, which definitely is doable with the tyre offset. Meanwhile, Deckers and MCL are still doing battle. MCL running a little bit wide off of the track there, and Deckers manages to get through back up into 9th place. Fozzie has pulled a little bit of a gap on those, but Harry has pulled a little bit of a gap on all of them. So Harry, on the 2-stop strategy, as most of them are, definitely working well. Harry, beautiful stuff in the Ferrari. Very composed drive from Harry, doing very well not to lose his head. And climbing his way up from the back of the grid, as we see Matt Connor go through on Hazuki and up into 5th place for Mercedes. Mercedes scoring very, very well. You must say, Red Bull, Mercedes and McLaren definitely looking like the Constructors' World Championship contenders. Red Bull, currently 1 and 2, definitely look like the team to beat, though, with Sidemen and Billy Mewis. Oracle Red Bull Racing definitely choosing their drivers wisely, as MCL and Deckers still continue to do battle in the closing chapters of this race. MCL manages to get ahead of Deckers, but Deckers, with plenty more battery and with the DRS, surely will have a sniff up the inside at turn 1. He will have a sniff up the inside at turn 1. MCL looks to try and hold it round the outside. Again, not enough grip offline though. MCL has to concede the position and will now fall down to the final points paying position of 10th place. Billy Mewis now only 4.3 seconds behind. Only needs to gain another second, really. You would imagine that Billy Mewis is very, very well placed to try and take this win here tonight. If we look at the gap to leader, you can also see that Sabre Phoenix is most certainly gaining. Of course, though, with that 3-second penalty, you would imagine this race is going to turn out to be a Red Bull 1-2. unless I've just commentators cursed it, and we maybe have a bit of drama towards the end of the race. There we can see Blake, who's just had a little off moment off track. He's just gaining a little bit, though, on the battle of MCL and Deckers. Fozzie still in a bit of no man's land, as is Harry, 14 seconds ahead of him, 1.7 seconds behind him. It's then Hazuki and Matt Connor, who is still doing battle for 5th and 6th. And it looks like Matt Connor is most confident to try and keep hold of P5 as we move on to the penultimate lap of this race. And Billy Mewis, 3.2 seconds to gap now. 0.2 of a second is all he needs to gain to get into that penalty window as Deckers picks up a 3-second time penalty. And as we come through this corner, surely it will be made official now. It is made official now. It is Billy Mewis who is in the lead of the race, technically. You would imagine it will be Sidemen who will see the checkered flag first. But for Billy Mewis, this is going to be a race win that, obviously, with it being round 1 of Season 1, will take him to the Drivers' Championship lead and will be a massive boost of confidence for him. Although, better yet, we might even still have an on-track overtake as Billy is really beginning to gain on his teammate. MCL and Deckers still scrapping away. These two do not want to let go of each other. They could go for another 28 laps, I'm sure, if you gave them the race distance. And MCL just not able to get the best of Deckers at this moment in time. Unfortunately for the Haas driver, definitely not the race that he would have wanted, as the gap now just about creeping to maybe get under a second. Hazuki manages to get through on Matt Connor as we move on to the final lap of this Chinese Grand Prix, and Billy sets after Sidemen. As much as he's going to win the race anyway, speaking from a racer's perspective, you're a driver, you're a racer, you want to see the checkered flag first, you want to win on track, you don't want to win it through a penalty, and Billy Mewis surely will be confident he can take it, and I do believe Sidemen maybe just led him through there, didn't want to bother battling, and Billy Mewis takes the lead officially of the Chinese Grand Prix, and surely that is all she wrote. Down below though, Matt Connor and Hazuki battling away. They've also got Andy Price, who will lose position due to penalties, as we will look at the penalty situation one last time. 3 seconds for Sidemen, Sabre Phoenix, Andy Price, Fozzie, MCL and Deckers, and then that 19-second penalty for Blake. But you can see there the gap opening up between Billy and Sidemen, and the real battle is going to be between Hazuki, Matt Connor and Andy Price. Andy might actually be doing his teammate a favour here, as he's going to lose the position anyway, but giving his McLaren teammate DRS is definitely going to help him. But out front, it has been Billy Mewis nearly all race long who has been flying away, and Red Bull will start the season off in style in the best way possible. The Chinese Grand Prix goes to Red Bull and one man, as Billy Mewis wins the Chinese Grand Prix with an absolutely brilliant drive. And I am already starting to run out of superlatives for this man. Absolutely brilliant. It is Sidemen who caps off a 1-2 for Red Bull in the opening round, absolutely dominating the field were both Red Bulls, and a very tight grip early on the Constructors' Championship. Sabre Phoenix takes home the final podium position, and it's Hazuki who finishes in 4th for McLaren, with Matt Connor in 5th for Mercedes. Incredible driving from absolutely everyone out there, and Billy Mewis, take a bow, my son. Brilliant driving, absolutely wonderful, and he will stand aloft the top step of the podium. There you have it then. It is Billy Mewis who wins the Chinese Grand Prix from his teammate Sidemen. It is Sabre Phoenix in third, with Hazuki in fourth and Matt Connor in fifth. Andy Price finishes in sixth, with Harry in seventh and Fozzie in eighth. Deckers finishes ninth, with MCL picking up the last points paying position. It is Blake who finishes 11th, with Mawashi, Daryl, Patrick and Tyler all failing to reach the flag. Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in on TikTok and on Twitch. If you are new, do drop a follow down below. We'll be back live on Tuesday, where you'll be with our other commentator, the brilliant Jack Crossley. Once again, thank you very much. And from me to you,